Hello, everyone. We'll get started. My name is Priya Bhutani. Thank you for joining us today. The goal for today's discussion is to help you prepare for the new regulations in Pakistan that went into effect actually last year. But however, due to the increased number of inquiries we've been receiving for Pakistan, we thought to cover it through our webinar. For those of you who don't know who RegDesk is, we're the developer of an advanced regulatory approval software solution that covers 100 markets globally. We use artificial intelligence, crowdsourcing, and powerful visualization tools to deliver regulatory intelligence to medical device companies that are ready to enter foreign markets. Our system, called RegDesk Dash, provides the users with immediate access to the most up-to-date regulatory requirements from all over the world, multi-expert answers to your nuanced regulatory questions, real-time alerts on regulatory changes, and also the ability to intuitively prepare and submit global applications. Think TurboTax for regulatory, all through one central platform. If you'd like to learn more or just get a demo, please contact us at any time. So let's get started with us today. We have a leading expert from Pakistan, Dr. Mohammed Sohail. Dr. Sohail is a regulatory affairs and pharmacovigilance expert from Lahore, Pakistan. He has almost a decade of experience in the field of regulatory affairs and quality management. He's worked for international companies, both medical devices and pharmaceuticals, and has held senior regulatory affairs roles at all these previous companies. So before we begin our discussion this morning, I'd like to turn our attention to our attendees. Thank you for joining us. At the end of this meeting, we'll be holding a brief Q&A. We encourage your participation, so please refer to the chat button on your screen. And in the interest of time, please submit your questions throughout the course of our talk, and we'll try to address as many of your questions as we can. Also, you'll be prompted to fill out a survey at the end of the webinar. We would appreciate your feedback. The survey shouldn't take more than a minute to fill out. That being said, in today's conversation, we have Dr. Sohail. We'll get an overview of the regulatory landscape in Pakistan. Dr. Sohail, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you very much.
Great. So let's get started. So can you sort of give us sort of a historical view on before regulations went into effect last year, what were they before? So how were medical devices regulated, or were they even regulated prior to last year?
Yes, exactly. Keeping in view of current scenario, before the publication of Medical Device Rules 2017, Medical Device Rules 2015 were published, but they're not got implemented due to some issues. The one of them was the non-availability of the conformity assessment body. And previously, at the initial stage, only few medical devices were being registered under the Drug Act 1976.
So then what happened? So I know, can you elaborate a little bit on then how have regulations evolved in the last few years for devices?
Yes. Yes. After Drug Act 1976, in 2012, there was the Ministry of Health in Pakistan was devolved, and there was the formation of Drug Regulatory Authority of Pakistan. Within the Drug Regulatory Authority of Pakistan has 13 divisions within it, and one of the division is known as the Medical Device and Medicated Cosmetics Division, that is responsible for the implementation and the developments of rules related to the medical devices segment. In 2012, Medical Device and Medicated Cosmetics Division was formed, and after its formation, initially, first time in the history of Pakistan, the medical device rules were published in 2015. But after its promulgation, due to non-availability of the conformity assessment body, they were not implemented in true sense. And on 16th January 2018, new medical devices were notified, and they are now implemented. And all the medical devices and the establishments that are doing business of the medical devices are being regulated under the Medical Device Rules 2017.
Okay, so now we have the rules 2017 because the 2015 couldn't be implemented. And so if we understand correctly, medical devices were not really regulated prior to this law that went into effect last year.
Yes, exactly.
And so what does the new law say? You know, is it is it regulating all every type of medical device? Is it only regulating certain types of medical devices? Can you give us some insight into that?
Yes, as per Medical Device Rules 2017, every establishment, entity, company, or person who is doing business of medical devices should get establishment license from the Drug Regulatory Authority of Pakistan, and as well as all medical devices that fall under the category of the medical device should get registration before its import or sale in the Pakistan.
Okay, and so can you also talk about the difference so that we understand the difference between what was before versus, can you do a comparison and sort of an overview of the comparison of the two?
Yeah, sure. In Medical Device Rules 2015, the main role was given to the conformity assessment body, who was responsible for the assessment of the establishments who are doing business of the medical devices. Similarly, but now this role has been given to the Medical Devices Board. And similarly, the main role previously under Medical Device Rules 2015 for the registration of medical devices and the assessment of medical devices was given to the conformity assessment body, but now this role has been given to the Medical Devices Board. In previous rules, there was a requirement that only pharmacists can be a technical person or the qualified person. But under the Medical Device Rules 2017, in addition to the pharmacist, any other person holding degree in biomedical technology or biochemistry can also be nominated as the technical person. In previous Medical Device Rules 2015, there were no criteria was defined for the appeal if any person is aggrieved by the decision of the Medical Device Board. But now in Medical Device Rules 2017, it has defined the procedure for the appeal. If anyone is aggrieved by the decision of the Medical Devices Board, he can approach and he can process his appeal. In Medical Device Rules 2015, if there is any query related to the customs, he should write to the Medical Devices Board or should approach to the Medical Devices Board. But in Medical Devices Rules 2017, this role has been given to the Director, Medical Devices and Medicated Cosmetics Division, and he can take all decisions related to the custom.
And can you also, this being able to appeal, this wasn't possible before. So is that, so if let's say I have a medical device which gets rejected, so then I can go to the drug authority and appeal. How is that is that fairly common? Are you seeing a lot of that? And how difficult, how does the agency handle that, in the sense that you know, because once they make a decision, do they ever have a change of mind, especially if you present some data to them? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, as far as the procedure related to appeal is concerned, after if Medical Devices Board has given a decision regarding any application, then you can approach to the appellate board. Then appellate board will invite both the parties. One is the Medical Devices Board, and the other one is the aggrieved party. And he will consider all the information provided to him, and depending upon the available information, they will decide.
Okay. Speaking of, now let's dig deeper into the regs for devices. Can you give us an overview of the classification system and sort of the rules of how devices are classified in Pakistan?
Yes, as for Medical Device Rules 2017, there is a list of medical devices that are known as the life-saving and life-sustaining medical devices, and they are also known as the Schedule D products. And this is the one classification. Another one classification is the Class A, Class B, Class C, and Class D medical devices. This classification is based purely on the risk it poses to the user as well as to the patient.
Okay, so there's so there's class A, B, C, D, and then there is schedule D products, which are life-saving products. So for class A through D, is it in accordance with the European standards? So would it be safe to assume that a company that has a class 2B product, that it'll translate to being a class C product in Pakistan?
Yes, exactly. The classification system of medical devices as per Medical Device Rules 2017 is in line and in accordance with the international classification of medical devices. For example, the class A medical device of in Pakistan is equivalent to the class 1, and class B medical devices is equivalent to the class 2A, and similarly the class 2B is equivalent to the class C, and class 3 medical devices is equivalent to the class D medical devices here in Pakistan.
Okay, and what about, is there a requirement of local testing? Does a device company ever have to send samples of their products to do local testing in the country? And then also, can you also cover clinical trials and investigation, I should say? How is data, which classification require clinical investigation and data, and then also which can one present foreign clinical data rather than doing a local trial?
Yes, exactly. As per Medical Device Rules 2017, there is no requirement of conducting the local clinical studies, and the clinical data of foreign manufacturer is acceptable here.
And so in case of a client does not have clinical data, but clinical data is required, is there an exemption list? Is there a way to get exemption from clinical data, or?
Yes, if the product is registered by the stringent regulatory authorities, as you know, the US is, if the product is registered in the by FDA, Health Canada, Japan, Australia, or pre-qualified by WHO or CE marked, then depending upon on their certificates, they will grant registration for the medical devices.
Understood. And so this has been very good information. Now let's dig even deeper than that into the actual classification of devices and the procedure. So can you give us a 30,000 foot view of what the procedure is? So I have, let's say, a class 2B product. Most of our clients have class 2B, 2A, 2B. How would one handle it? What do we need to do?
Yes, in the initial stage, the foreign manufacturer or the authorized representative here in Pakistan should get the establishment license from the Drug Regulatory Authority of Pakistan. That is the prerequisite for the registration of medical devices. After getting the establishment license, now you are eligible to apply for the product registration, and that is the medical devices. But as per the Medical Device Rules 2017, there is an exemption period defined under the rules, and before the expiry of the exemption period, you should get your product registered for its safer supply and smooth business in Pakistan.
And so a lot of the documents that are required, can one pull those documents from their GHTF market? So if I have a CE mark, are a lot of the required documents sort of pulling from what already exists for a client? Or are there any unique documents and test requirements?
All of the documentary requirements is in line with GHTF and IMDRF requirements. There is no additional documents required, but the only template that is country specific is the credentials of the manufacturer that is provided by the Medical Devices Board. If there is any foreign manufacturer, then a person who is doing business in Pakistan should provide the information of the foreign manufacturer on the specified template that is known as the credentials of the foreign manufacturer.
Okay, so there is that a form that one fills out, or is that what that is? So it's a special form that a foreign manufacturer would fill out?
Yes, yeah, exactly. It's a specific templates that contains information about the manufacturers, the what's the how the manufacturing process is going there, what is the area, do they have the quality control laboratory there, do they perform any research and development work there. It's just it contains information like this.
Okay. And then since we're touched upon quality management systems, uh, though companies will have a QMS certificate, does Pakistan Authority, are they doing any visits, any audits out for foreign manufacturers' facilities, plants?
As far as establishment license is concerned, if as you know, as I've shared that it's a prerequisite for establishment license, the inspection will be carried out by the Medical Devices Board, and it will be within the Pakistan where the product will be stored. As far as the product registration is concerned, if any product is registered by the stringent regulatory authorities or it's pre-qualified by WHO or CE mark, there is no manufacturer related inspection. But if it's not registered and not CE marked, then the product specific inspection of foreign manufacturer will be carried out.
Okay. And so what if so since the warehouse is being inspected, what if an importer has multiple clients and do they have to keep going through this establishment license audits by the authority? Or is it sufficient that one time they go through an audit, they have the license, then the importer carries my product, so it doesn't slow me down as a foreign manufacturer? Or does the importer continuously have to go through these inspections?
Yes, as I've shared that under Medical Device Rules 2017, there was an exemption for obtaining the establishment license, and that expires on 16 July 2018. And for obtaining establishment license, the manufacturer authorization is very important. And after applying to the authority, they will carry out the inspection. But if any party or any company in Pakistan has in agreement with multiple manufacturer, then it depends upon the medical devices board, and it's up to them that either they inspect or they grant license depending upon the previous inspection.
Okay, and then can you touch upon the exemption period, because the regulations did go into effect last year, we must be running very close and tight on these exemption timelines.
Yes, exactly. For Schedule D products, there is no exemption period, and all those medical devices that fall are categorized under the Schedule D. They should get first the provisional establishment license, and after obtaining the establishment license, they should go for obtaining the provisional medical device registration. As far as medical full establishment license is concerned, its deadline was till 16 July 2018. And for Class D medical devices, the exemption period is till 16th October 2018. Similarly, for Class C medical devices, the exemption period is till 16th January 2019. And again, for Class B medical devices, the exemption period is till 16th July 2019. And for Class A medical devices, the exemption period is till March 2020.
Okay, so obviously the high risk devices, so if foreign manufacturers have that, you know, the timelines are pretty tight, so one needs to get started on this process. What is the timeline? Is the timeline variable depending on the classification? How long does it take to get product approval?
Yes, in the initial step, as I've shared earlier, the establishment license is the requirement. And for the medical device registration, the average timeline for product registration is about 6 to 9 months.
Okay, so so I mean it can take close to a year to get a product approved in India.
Yes, exactly. But if their product is already registered by the SRA or CE, then it will get registered within 2 to 3 months.
Okay. Any particular labeling requirements? Does Pakistan have its own labeling requirements legislation there, or is it also piggybacking on the GHTF country laws?
Yes, as per medical device rules 2017, the international labeling is acceptable here. But in addition to that, if there is you got license, then you should mention the establishment license as well as product registration number and the maximum retail price of the product on the label. But if the product is a home-based medical devices, then Urdu labeling, that is a national language here in Pakistan, should also be mentioned on the product.
Okay, that's good to know. And how is the Central Drug Agency handling the influx of, going from not having devices that are being regulated to now regulating all devices? Do you see that's causing a delay for products, and what can foreign manufacturers expect, or is it going fairly smoothly?
Actually, depending upon the current practices of the Medical Devices Board, as I've shared, that these rules were notified on 16 January 2018, and after its notification, the first exemption period expiry was on 16 July 2018. But most of the manufacturers and the importers who applied to the Medical Devices Board, they are soon going to get their establishment license, and hopefully within the next week they will get their licenses. And I think depending on the practices and the current scenario and the activities of the Medical Devices Board, I think that there is not any delay.
And so as devices get registered in India and as the portfolio increases, do you see any talks about that they might establish the same system of substantial equivalence? Then that would be sort of an abbreviated pathway. Is there any talks around that with the drug authority?
No, currently there is this criteria is not under consideration. The first, the priority they have already given is if your product is CE marked, then depending on this, they will grant you an registration.
Okay. Just CE mark, or basically any, so you could have registration from Japan, Canada, or the US as well?
Yes, exactly. Including CE mark, Japan, Canada, Australia, Switzerland, Australia, Austria, Japan.
Okay.
All these are acceptable here.
Okay. And so we discussed the timeline. What about products with combination? Because we're seeing a big trend with combination products and also software. So can we discuss combination products? Is there a concept, and does the government define what a combination is? And then if so, is it being regulated under the device law, or would it fall under the drug law?
Yes, under Medical Device Rules 2017, combination products are also defined here, and the combination can be of drug medical device, it can be of biological medical device, or medical device combination, and all these combination products are being handled by the Medical Devices Board.
And would the registration requirements be the same for combination, or do they have separate rules and requirements?
Yeah, registration requirements is same, but for combination products, you have to provide the additional technical data regarding the, for example, if the product is related software, if any software is being used, then the validation studies, and if biological is being used along with the medical devices, then similarly it's the origin of the biological and the all quality control data is also required for the registration of combination products.
Okay. And what about wireless devices? So if there's a wireless feature, is that, are you familiar with that? Are you seeing a lot of trend with devices, connected devices? What about those? Are there any special requirements around that? Would one need to get registration from Ministry of Telecommunications for that?
No, the only medical devices are being handled in Pakistan by the Medical Devices Board, and the Drug Regulatory Authority of Pakistan is responsible for the registration of all these medical devices.
Okay. We've covered a lot. So one thing I always ask is, do you have any tips? You know, how can one best prepare to enter the market, especially if they have a lot of very large product portfolio? Any tips to expedite their approval process in Pakistan?
The one thing that I would like to share is without waiting for the expiry of the exemption period, the every company or the manufacturer who are interested in doing business in Pakistan should secure their registration as soon as possible. And for all the country specific templates or country specific information, I am available.
Okay, great. And so looks like we have 5 minutes for Q&A. For those of you who have a question, please feel free to type your question in the chat box. We have a couple questions. Are the rules fully in effect? And I think you covered upon this, but maybe you can just debrief again. Are the rules fully in effect for all devices, and is there a transition period? That was your exemptions, right?
Yes, exactly. Rules are applicable at once, as they were published on 16th January 2018. And as far as the transition period is concerned, the first transition period is related to the establishment license. And for all those companies who are involved in the business of the medical devices, in the first step, they should get the establishment license from the Drug Regulatory Authority of Pakistan. And then after getting the establishment license, you can apply or you can proceed for the medical device registration according to the class of the medical devices. And depending upon the class of the medical devices, there is an exemption period. For class D medical devices, the exemption period is of 9 months. And similarly, it depends upon the class, and the exemption period is according to the class of the medical device.
And the next question is on the timeline. Do all classes have same timeline? Because you mentioned 6 to 9 months. So even if you're a class A product or a class D or schedule D product, is it the same 6 to 9 months?
No, exactly. The 6 to 9 months the exemption period is related to the establishment. All those parties who are doing business related to the medical device should get their license within till 16 July 2018. As far as classes are concerned, there is a variable timeline. For class D, the exemption period expired first. For class, then came the exemption period of class C, then D, and then A.
So this question is related to the timeline for approval, I believe. So is 6 to 9 month approval timeline, is that sort of the common timeline regardless of your product classification? So it's not that class A can be approved within 3 weeks and then class D will take 9 months. Is it the same timeline for approval, the same across all classes?
Yes, the approval timeline is variable, and it's not defined under the rules, but depending upon the practices of and depending upon the experience of the working of medical devices board, it's calculated that it takes at least 6 to 9 months for the registration of medical device.
One thing we didn't cover real quickly, and the time's almost up, is renewal. So what's the timeline with renewal? And is it 60 days, 90 days, 30 days? When should one renew?
Once you get the registration of medical devices, it is valid for 5 years, but before the expiry of at least 60 days before the expiry of the registration, you should apply for renewal of the medical devices.
Okay, and the renewal process is the same. You would just have to re-register your product the same way as you would.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, great. Well, Dr. Sohail, it was such a pleasure. Thank you. I hopefully this was very helpful for our audience. You covered a lot. You have gave us a lot of very good information, practical information. If viewers, for those of you still listening, please, if you have any questions, feel free to contact us. If you want to learn more about us, contact us. And also if you have any specific questions, after the webinar for Dr. Sohail, please send those to us and we'll get those questions answered for you. Again, thank you so much, Dr. Sohail, for your time. And thank you everyone for joining us on our Wednesday webinar series by RegDesk.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.